flat and boring. Let's make it pop, shall we? Hi there, Stephanie with Steffy Jewels, the spot for crafters, tree makers, and the do-it-yourselfers. In today's video, we are going to dome these custom hearts that will eventually be turned into pop sockets. Now, by definition, doming is the state of being rounded into a dome or dome-like shape. But in the world of resin, it is actually creating an eye-popping like shape or effect, should I say, an eye-popping effect on your pieces to make it look more 3D and also make it more attractive to gain more attention to your piece. So for example, this right here has a little glitter. If I put some resin on it, which is doming on top of it, this flat piece, as you can see, it's flat right now. It will have a raised surface, like so you can see the side. It's flat now, but when I dome it, it'll be a raised surface, so I have a little bubble on top of it, and then make it pop. Now, you can dome your pieces in two different ways. You can dome it using the quick method, which is using UV resin, which today I'll be using Teexpert UV Resin to dome some of these pieces. And I did review this product, so if you want to check out that video, then I'll leave a link down below or in the cards up above, and you can check out that video. So I'm going to dome some of it with this one, and then I'm going to try doming it with this Roxy Epoxy 2-part resin, which is resin and hardener. So let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to start with the actual epoxy. And the reason why I start with epoxy because it takes a little bit longer to cure. It takes about up to 72 hours for it to have a fully cure. So I just want to go ahead and do that one first. So I'm going to take these 3 pieces, and I'm actually nope, I want this one. I'm going to do 3 pieces right here using UV resin. I'm sorry, using epoxy resin, and then these 3 will be using UV. So move it out the way right now. So as you can see, I got them in these bottles. That's how they come in. And I do have a product review on this one. I haven't finished that video yet, so I'll put that up here on my YouTube channel shortly. So make sure you hit that subscribe button so you can kind of be alerted for that video. But I moved those into these small bottles right here, and then I labeled it resin and hardener. So I'm going to go ahead and mix this up, and I'm going to come back and we're going to start doming our pieces. Okay guys, so I went ahead and mixed my resin per the manufacturer instructions, so make sure whatever resin you're using that's epoxy, that you follow the directions. So I didn't do much, so basically what I'm going to do is with either a silicone stick or any stirrer, I'm just going to start doming these pieces. I'm going to take one off so that way it's easier, and make sure before you start doming that there's nothing else like on it, like any hairs and stuff on it. So just make sure there's nothing on it. So I'm going to dome the top of this. So I'm just going to flip it around so I can see it. So the way I do it first is I'd actually just pour it in the middle. Let me actually get a paper towel so I can clean this real quick. I'm just going to pour it in the middle. And then either using a stick or a toothpick, which I'm going to probably use a toothpick here. I'm actually going to pour a little bit more in here. Always start with a little bit, and then you can always add on to it as you need to. But I'm going to start with my toothpick, and then I'm just going to start dragging the resin to the edges of my pieces. And make sure you do this step very carefully because you don't really want it to pour over the edges. Now, epoxy resin is a little self-leveling, so it should level out pretty well. But also, it has a tendency to pull from the edges, meaning as soon as I push this resin to the edge, it will pull back to the center. So always make sure that after you push all your resin as far as you can to the edges without actually going over it, that you check the edges again and make sure it didn't pull back to the center. So I'm just going all the way around here, just like so. And the good thing about these mats, or doming mats, I can pretty much turn that mat around to see where I'm at. So it's always important to use a doming mat or any type of silicone mat, because that way if the resin falls, it won't stick to it. But I'm just basically pushing it as far as I can to the edge. And it's okay if you don't have enough resin. You can always pour a little bit on it, but I'm just going to start with what I have first. And then if I have to add more, I can. So I'm just going all the way to the edges. And like right here, I don't think I'm going to have enough for that. So I'm just going to pour just a little bit kind of right there, not much, and then kind of drag that resin to the edge. Now I like using the toothpicks better because you get better control with it. So just as far as I can to the edge. And this is what's going to give you that dome-like shape. Or like I said, it magnifies your piece a little bit better. So all of the edge, now that I pull all the resin and cover up the whole piece, now I'm just going back over and just seeing if I have any of the resin that pulled from the edges. So you kind of have to get kind of like right on top of it. And with any resin right now, I'm not using any gloves because this is epoxy, or a mask because this is a little older one. But if you are sensitive to smells, please make sure you use safety precaution and put on your respiratory mask on as well as your gloves, so that way you don't have to touch it. But as you can see, I'm just basically moving into the edge, and right now I don't really see it pulling, so it looks like I got it all covered here. So I'm gonna go ahead and do this for the other two pieces, and I'm gonna come right back. Dad, don't come in here, I'm recording. You hear me? Huh? Don't come in here, I'm recording. I'm gonna close my door. Okay guys, so I'm back, finished and done with all three of them pieces. So I'm just gonna check real quick, like getting my head down here a little bit, make sure I'm not blocking the camera, just to see if I have any resin trying to pull from the edges. And how you can basically tell is if you see like any dry spots on the edges, that's how you can tell that it pulled. But it looks like this resin went all the way to the edge, as well as nothing went over, so no resin dipped on the end, so that's perfect. So that's why I said using a toothpick is perfect. Now it's okay if it does go over the edge, you can pretty much sand that down, but that's why I like using a toothpick here, just to make sure. Now also with not UV resin, sorry, epoxy resin, sometimes you have bubbles on it and I really can't see it on there. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this embossing heat gun and I'm gonna just blow on top of it real quick and pop the bubbles. So let me do that real quick and I'll be right back. Okay, so I went ahead and took my embossing heat gun, and I know there's a little something here, so I'm just trying to pop it. It might be little bubbles or not, but I'm just gonna pop it and wipe it on my toothpick. So you really can't really see a lot of these because of the color, but I can see like the reflection on it when I get down here. Almost like there's like, you know, if you ever look at a pond, you saw like little flies and bugs on top of the water. I can kind of see that on my resin piece, especially with the blue one. But with the other ones, it's kind of hard to see. And it's okay if you still have some. Like I said, these two have glitter on it, so you really can't see it. You have to really put your head in to notice. And if you're not a UV or epoxy resin artist, you're not going to notice that these little bumps shouldn't be there. Just FYI. Now I'll probably tell the secret, but that's how you do it for a doming for the actual epoxy. Now I'm going to move this out the way carefully. And this right here would take about 3 days to cure. So now I'm going to show you how to do it with the UV resin. For this, all you need is your UV resin, and I'm using Teexpert UV Resin. I did do a review on this one, so I'll leave a link down below or in the cards above on how I like this resin or not. Actually, I like it because I'm using it, but check out that video if you want to see how it works. So now let me go ahead and do that. So same thing. You just need to pour a little bit on it, and let me go ahead and plug in my lamp. So yeah, so I'm just going to start one at a time. I'm just going to start in the middle and pour that in there. And then same thing with the toothpick. I'm just going to push it to the edge. And just like the same thing, this is kind of self-leveling a little bit, but if you notice that it pulled from the edge, all you gotta do is just push it back to the edge as careful as you can without it actually running over. So I'm just doing that real quick. Now when you are doming your pieces, make sure you choose the side you want to dome. Now this is the part that's going to be on the outside, so that's why I'm doming that piece. On the back side, I actually sand these because this is going to be the part that goes in my pop socket. So this actually goes, oops, this will actually go inside here, so I don't really need to dome that. So I'm only doming the side that I want to magnify, which will be the outside in this case. So I'm just taking this right here and moving my thing around, pushing it with my toothpick slowly because I don't want it to go over the edge. Because you can always start with a little bit of resin, whether it's epoxy or UV, and you can add on to it as you go. Now this resin, like I said, doesn't have a smell either. So like I said, if you notice that I'm not wearing any mask or nothing, that's kind of why. It just is very low odor. And I'm in a very ventilated room too. So that right there. So let me go ahead and finish doing this with the other two and I'll come right back. Okay guys, so I went ahead and finished doing these 3 pieces using the UV resin, and then these of course will be the epoxy. Now, not sure if you can tell, and I don't really think I can move it up because I want to move it, but these right here, like I said, I domed these. Not sure if you can tell from it, but yeah, it has a little, you know, little oval shape over it, like a little dome shape that kind of magnifies it a little bit. The only thing about UV resin versus epoxy is that you really don't get a high dome with UV resin. Now, if I want to get this a little bit more bubbly, I guess, a more bubble look, then I would have to do this maybe one more time, maybe twice. So I'll put like another layer on top of it to give it dome. So I might do that off camera here and just to see how I like it. But right now, yeah, it just basically, now I have a nice shell to it. So, and of course, it's got a little nice shininess to it. So yeah, these 3 are using the UV resin, and then these 3 are epoxy. So these are ready to go. So as soon as I put this under the lamp for 4 minutes, touch, they're ready to go. I can go ahead and put these in my pop socket, which if you're interested in these will be available on my website soon, steffyjewels.com. So make sure you go in there, join my mailing list, so that way you can be notified when these are ready on the website for sale. But yeah, I'm gonna finish these out, you know, put these on here and complete this so I can make these available for my website. And then of course these I have to let sit for 3 days. Now I'm gonna check it in 24 hours because basically 24 hours for it to have a cure, just a hard cure. But I always do 3 days to make sure it's fully hardened, to make sure that there ain't no loose or kind of soft still. So I do the full 3 days, maybe sometimes 4 or 5 days. But right now in Texas, we finally got rid of the rain and we finally finna get some heat. So it might not take that long to actually cure, especially in my room. I keep the door closed and I have a thermostat in my room. It's about 85 degrees in this room. So this might not take the full 3 days. It might be done by tomorrow, but on the safe side, I like to do it. So there you have it. That's how you dome your resin pieces using either UV resin or epoxy resin. Now, if you're like most folks and you don't have the patience to wait 3 days, then definitely use UV resin. Now, like I said, it don't give it a raised look like the epoxy does, but if you want to do it, just do it in layers. So like, here's one layer. If I want to go back, do a second layer and see how that looks, you know, or do it 3 or 4 layers. So it depends on the look you're trying to achieve with your doming. You might need to, you know, pour more resin on top to get it. But right now, I kind of like that. I said I might think about doing 1 more layer just to kind of give it a more bubble look, but I'm going to sleep on it and find out. So if you found this video very helpful, make sure you hit that like button, you hit that subscribe button, you hit that thumbs up button, so that way you're notified on any other videos that I make on my channel. Once again, this is Stephanie with Steffy Jewels, the spot for crafters, jewelry makers, and the do-it-yourselfers. Hope to see you soon. Bye!